Hey, BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg. It's been a few days or maybe a week since my last video. I apologize for the delay. Things have been busy, and I've been busy. And anyway, but we have more books to show you, as we always do. I hope everyone had a great, relaxing 3-day weekend, Labor Day weekend, and I hope everyone's doing well. Okay, so we're going to dive into some of these new books that have arrived. Some of these books are either brand new and are already out there for you to look up, to order, to ask, for your library to order, or books that will be coming up in October or November, I think. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first book, this is historical fiction. Now, I know in the last few videos I've shown a lot of fiction on this channel, and I've had a couple comments on the channel, people saying, well, that's a lot of fiction, and this is the History Shelf, and I want to assure you that I am definitely sticking to my roots. I've had a slate of book reviews that I've been assigned that are fiction or historical fiction, but I will be getting back into my history reading and reporting back on pretty hot and heavy here soon. But a lot of these are history, so don't worry. But we have a book of historical fiction here, and I thought it would sound interesting because I do love historical fiction as well as history and nonfiction. And I kind of mix it up on this channel, so it's not just one thing all the time. But anyway, first book we have is from St. Martin's Press. This is brand new. In fact, this just hit the shelves today. This is Defending Britta Stein by Ronald H. Balson, who also wrote Once We Were Brothers and I believe Eli's Promise. It's also set, I think, in World War II or post-World War II. So this is brand new. Let me give you a little background on this in case you find it interesting here. It's Chicago 2018. Ole Henrik's, a popular restaurateur, is set to be honored by the Danish-American Association for his many civic and charitable contributions. Frequently appearing on local TV, he is well known for his actions in Nazi-occupied Denmark during World War II. Most consider him a hero. Britta Stein, however, does not. The 90-year-old Chicago woman levels public accusations against Henriks by spray painting coward, traitor, collaborator, and war criminal on the walls of his restaurant. Mrs. Stein is ultimately taken into custody and charged with criminal defacement of property. She also becomes the target of a bitter lawsuit filed by Henriks and his son, accusing her of defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Attorney Catherine Lockhart, though hesitant at first, agrees to take up Mrs. Stein's defense. With the help of her investigator husband, Liam Taggart, Lockhart must reach back into wartime Denmark and locate evidence that proves Mrs. Stein's innocence. Sounds really good. Okay, so that's the premise. Defending Britta Stein by St. Martin's Press. It was just released today, September 7th. Fantastic. Once I finish up this huge slate that I like I've said in some other videos, I overloaded myself with some stuff. When I am free at the end of this month, this sounds like something I'd like to read. Just take my time with. Okay, the next book. This one I actually requested, and this is from Oxford University Press. So thank you, Oxford University Press. I recently attended a webinar they had with a guest panel, and it included the author, I think Camille Townsend, I think. I think it's Camille or Camilla. She won the Condell History Prize for Fifth Son about the Aztecs. And they had a panel, and they were just discussing just everything about, like, the Spanish conquest of South America, like colonialism there, and it was fascinating. Anyway, this author was also on the panel, and I wanted to check out this book of his. In Oxford just republished it, so that's why it came out in 2003, but I don't think it has. It's an updated edition, and that's why Oxford published it. So it came out this year. This is 7 Myths of the Spanish Conquest by Matthew Restall. Very evocative cover. I love it. So let me just read you a little bit of this. Seven Myths of the Spanish Conquest reveals how the Spanish invasions in the Americas have been conceived and presented, misrepresented, and misunderstood in the 5 centuries since Columbus first crossed the Atlantic. Using a wide array of primary and secondary sources, written in a scholarly but readable style, Seven Myths of the Spanish Conquest explains why Columbus did not set out to prove the world was round. The conquistadors were not soldiers. The Native Americans did not take them for gods. Cortez did not have a unique vision of conquest procedure. And handfuls of vastly outnumbered Spaniards did not bring down great empires with stunning rapidity. Conquest realities were more complex and far more fascinating than conventional histories have related, and they featured a more diverse cast of protagonists: Spanish, Native American, and African. This updated edition of a key event in the history of the Americas critically examines the book's arguments, how they have held up, and why they prompted the rise of and this is all in capital letters, of a new conquest history. So that's interesting. I'm very curious to see what this new conquest history, it was, kind of like teased at a little bit in the webinar, but and knowing that he wrote this back, in the early 2000s, I'd like to see how it has held up and what this whole new conquest history is all about. So, Seven Myths of the Spanish Conquest from Oxford University Press, updated edition. Check it out. It is out now. Okay. All right. Going to University Press. I saw this book on Twitter, and I was intrigued by it. So I was just curious to see if I might be able to get a review copy of this. Because, I'm into, obviously, military history, but also war reporting, war memoirs, things like that. And this is put out from University of New Mexico Press. It was actually printed by High Road Books, but it's an imprint of the University of New Mexico Press. This is a brand new book. Richard Tregaskis, Reporting Under Fire from Guadalcanal to Vietnam. And I was able to get an advanced reader's edition, but it comes out in November. This is by Ray E. Boomhauer. So this is Richard Tregaskis on the front. All right, so it's coming out in November, and what it says here is, it's an in-depth portrait of the tall, gangly reporter who endured the dangers and harsh realities of war in order to report to Americans at home about what life was really like for those on the front line, all while hiding a serious medical condition, diabetes. Tregaskis' notebook captured the daily and nightly terrors faced by the American forces in the legendary World War II Battle of Guadalcanal. And that's what really drew me to this, because I'm just very interested in that particular campaign in the Philippines, and especially the Battle of Guadalcanal. I've been amassing a lot of different articles and been watching, Band of Brothers, or actually it's called The Pacific, I believe that one was in, and just kind of really reading up on it. I've just been fascinated by it, and I want to know more about the soldiers' experience of it. Anyway, he turned those notebooks into his best-selling book, Guadalcanal Diary. He eventually left the Pacific to report on the fighting in Europe, where his luck ran out and he sustained a serious head injury in Italy. After undergoing surgery to insert a metal plate to cover the hole in his skull, Tregaskis had to spend several months relearning how to speak and regain the use of his paralyzed right hand. He still managed to write his next book, Invasion Diary, while in the hospital. Boomhauer's deeply researched biography fills in all the details of the life and experiences of a combat journalist committed to tell the stories of the people who fight in wars and how it affects them. So that sounds fantastic. So this is, about his life, and I think in addition to this, I will pick up his Guadalcanal Diary and Invasion Diary as well. So University of New Mexico Press, coming out in November. If you're intrigued by it, let your library know about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this greatly. It's going to be a good reading winter, a fall and winter. And I definitely am going to be getting back into my heavy duty history reading because I miss it. I realize I've been reading a lot of fiction for review lately, and then I'm just like, I really miss my nonfiction. So, like I said, once I'm free at the end of this month, it's back on. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so this next book is another university press book. And either I must have requested it or they sent it to me and they knew my tastes. This is NYU Press. Wait, is that? Yeah, New York University Press. Okay. This is The Church of the Dead, The Epidemic of 1576 and the Birth of Christianity in the Americas by Jennifer Shepard Hughes. Again, NYU Press. Okay. This book right here tells the story of the founding of American Christianity against the backdrop of devastating disease and of the indigenous survivors who kept the nascent faith alive. Many scholars have come to think of the European Christian mission to the Americas as an inevitable success, but in its early period it was very much on the brink of failure. In 1576, indigenous Mexican communities suffered a catastrophic epidemic that took almost 2 million lives and simultaneously left the colonial church in ruins. In the crisis and its immediate aftermath, Spanish missionaries and surviving pueblos de indios held radically different visions for the future of Christianity in the Americas. The Church of the Dead offers a counter-history of American Christian origins. It centers the power of indigenous Mexicans, showing how their Catholic faith remained intact even in the face of the faltering religious fervor of Spanish missionaries. While the Europeans grappled with their failure to stem the tide of death, succumbing to despair, indigenous survivors worked to reconstruct the church. They reasserted ancestral territories as sovereign, with indigenous Catholic states rivaling the jurisdiction of the diocese and the power of friars and bishops. This is so cool. Christianity in the Americas today is thus not the creation of missionaries, but rather of indigenous Catholic survivors of the colonial mortandad, the founding condition of American Christianity. Weaving together archival study, visual culture, church history, theology, and the history of medicine, Jennifer Shepard Hughes provides us with a fascinating re-examination of North American religious history that is at once groundbreaking and lyrical. So this kind of cool. It kind of also goes along a little bit with the Restall book, the 7 Myths. So, kind of companion volume there. So, yes, thank you, New York University Press. This looks great. And I was looking at the bibliography. Woo! Oh, it's got some good stuff. It's some good stuff. I got to try to find some of these things on ebook because I can't really buy any more books. I just can't. All right. Let's see. Now, I do have some fiction to show you, but I think one of it's kind of timely in a sense that next month is October, so Halloween. Anyway, but what is with the glitching? Okay, sorry about the glitching, guys. Okay, well, let's just continue. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Okay. But I still have 2 big books here, and one of them is let's just go to the history one first. All right. This is a nice, big, heavy one here. Woo, this is from Cambridge University. Cambridge University Press. And once I get through this, and it's pretty beefy, it's 500 pages, if it's a dozen. It's pretty heavy. But it's kind of timely in the fact that... well, I've always studied about jihad and the rise of radical Islam and just the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I've always been reading about it at one time or another. And this is The Caravan, Abdallah Azzam and the Rise of Global Jihad by Thomas Heghammer. It's Cambridge University Press. Abdallah Azzam, the Palestinian cleric who led the mobilization of Arab fighters to Afghanistan in the 1980s, played a crucial role in the internationalization of the jihadi movement. Killed in mysterious circumstances in 1989 in Peshawar in Pakistan, he remains one of the most influential jihadi ideologues of all time. here in the first in-depth biography of Azam, Thomas Heghammer explains how Azam came to play this role and why jihadism went global at this particular time. It traces Azam's extraordinary life journey from a West Bank village to the battlefields of Afghanistan, telling the story of a man who knew all the leading Islamists of his time and frequented princes, CIA agents, and Cat Stevens, the pop star. It is, however, also a story of displacement, exclusion, and repression, which suggests that jihadism went global for fundamentally local reasons. I am not familiar with Thomas Heghammer, the author, but he is a senior research fellow at the Norwegian Defense Research Establishment, an adjunct professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of Oslo. Let's see, he has written a prize-winning book, Jihad in Saudi Arabia, and is the editor of Jihadi Culture. These are both put out by Cambridge University Press. Interesting. He is, sounds like he is pretty knowledgeable on this. He's conducted extensive fieldwork in the Middle East, including interviews with former militants, and he has testified on jihadism in front of the U.S. Congress and the British Parliament. Finely detailed. I mean, extremely footnoted at the back. Lots of notes. That takes up at least 150 pages. All right, so this should be a very authoritative and a first ever biography of Abdallah Azam. Cambridge University Press. All right. And this just kind of speaks to the industry of reading, and I'm interested. Books about books or books about the publishing world I find fascinating. And this is put out by Polity Books, and this is called Book Wars, The Digital Revolution in Publishing by John B. Thompson. It's a big book. But I found it very intriguing. And especially I'm curious about the future of ebooks and if they really are going to continue to make well, first of all, if people know how to price them correctly. I mean, I'm not going to pay $10 for an ebook when $5 more I could have a physical copy. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Anyway, this book tells the story of the turbulent decades when the book publishing industry collided with the great technological revolution of our time. From the surge of ebooks to the self-publishing explosion and the growing popularity of audiobooks, Book Wars provides a comprehensive and fine-grained account of technological disruption in one of our most important and successful creative industries. Like other sectors, publishing has been thrown into disarray by the digital revolution. The foundation on which this industry had been based for 500 years, the packaging and sale of words and images in the form of printed books, was called into question by a technological revolution that enabled symbolic content to be stored, manipulated, and transmitted quickly and cheaply. Publishers and retailers found themselves facing a proliferation of new players who were offering new products and services and challenging some of their most deeply held principles and beliefs. The old industry was suddenly thrust into the limelight as bitter conflicts erupted between publishers and new entrants, including powerful new tech giants who saw the world in very different ways. The book wars had begun. While ebooks were at the heart of many of these conflicts, Thompson argues that the most fundamental consequences lie elsewhere. The print-on-paper book has proven to be a remarkably resilient cultural form. I agree with that. But the digital revolution has transformed the industry in other ways, spawning new players which now wield unprecedented power and giving rise to an array of new publishing forms. Most important of all, it has transformed the broader information and communication environment, creating new challenges and new opportunities for publishers as they seek to redefine their role in the digital age. This unrivaled account of the book publishing industry, as it faces its greatest challenge since Gutenberg, will be essential reading for anyone interested in books and their future. And that's me. I'm very interested in that. Some of the chapters in here are very interesting. The backlist wars. I like that. Also, we were looking at crowdfunding books, which is, of course, there's a whole chapter on Google. Google Trouble is what they call it, and a chapter on Amazon, Amazon's Ascent. The Faltering Rise of the E-Book. Yeah, that's like chapter 2. This is fascinating. Just all about the world of publishing and printing books and then the e-books and how they're competing. We've got some charts in here as well. Wow, he gets really kind of nerdy with this stuff, but very cool. I like it. You gotta have some pie charts. You gotta have pie charts. What do we got here? Very cool. So this is Book Wars, put out by Polity Books, and this book is out. It's out right now. This is a finished copy, obviously. Yeah, this came out this year. Fantastic. Okay, so this is a book I've already read and reviewed. I'm not going to review it here, but all I can say is I really like it, and they did send me, well, this is an advanced reader's copy. I hope to get the finished copy at some point so I can have the maps and stuff, but, for now, it was a great read, and this book is coming out in October. Doesn't give me the date. But I highly recommend if you guys are interested in, like, end of the Cold War, late Cold War, end of the Cold War, spycraft, espionage, Polish history, Poland, United States, our interplay with Eastern Europe. This is a really great book. This is From Warsaw with Love by John Pomfret. Polish Spies, the CIA, and the Forging of an Unlikely Alliance. So this is like a little... It's put out by Henry Holt and Co. There you go. It's a great read. It's not too long. About 250 pages. But what an interesting little, keyhole history, I guess, if you will, or spotlight. It kind of just zooms in on this one area and talks about just the affinity that Poland, even when it was still in the thrall of the Soviet Union, before it, declared independence, and when it, even when it was still, communist, the affinity that Polish spies and English, or American spies actually felt for one another. Like, it's just a really interesting relationship. And I really enjoyed this book. Let me just read this to you really quick. The epic story of how Polish intelligence officers forged an alliance with the CIA in the twilight of the Cold War. And it's told by the award-winning and acclaimed author of The Beautiful Country in the Middle Kingdom, which is right behind me. John Pomfret, I've got your book right there. So I'll put this one next to it. Spanning decades and continents, from the battlefields of the Balkans to secret nuclear research labs in Iran and embassy grounds in North Korea, this saga begins in 1990. As the U.S. cobbles together a coalition to undo Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait, 6 U.S. officers are trapped in Iraq with intelligence that could ruin Operation Desert Storm. Desperate, the CIA asks Poland for help. Just months after the Polish people voted in their first democratic election since the 1930s, the young government in Warsaw sends a veteran ex-communist spy who had battled the West for decades to rescue the 6 Americans. John Pomfret's gripping account of the 1990 cliffhanger in Iraq is just the beginning of the tale about intelligence cooperation between Poland and the United States, cooperation that one CIA director would describe as, quote, one of the 2 foremost intelligence relationships that the United States has ever had, end quote. Pomfret also uncovers new details about the CIA's Black Site program that held suspected terrorists in Poland after 9/11, as well as the role of Polish spies in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. As the United States teeters on the edge of a new Cold War with Russia and China, Pomfret explores how these little-known events serve as a reminder of the importance of alliances in a dangerous world. Yeah. And he did this with aplomb. It was a great book. So, From Warsaw with Love by John Pomfret, coming out next month. If you want to know the actual release date, just comment below or send me an email, and I will find that for you. Okay. Let's see. So actually, this is not... Yeah, this is actually... Yeah, this is history. Okay, I don't know what... I know that I showed this on Instagram. I showed a picture of this when I first got it. But I don't think I've shown it on here yet. I don't think I have. But this is by Tom Clavin, who I really like. I reviewed his book Tombstone, which I enjoyed very much. He wrote Dodge City. He wrote a bunch of different books. This is his new book coming out in November, early November. It's coming out November 2nd. So keep your eyes open for this if you like World War II history. This is Lightning Down, a World War II story of survival by Tom Clavin. And this is put out by St. Martin's Press as well. All right, so what we're going to read, I'm just going to read this to you here. Let's see, it's the true story of an American fighter pilot imprisoned within the walls of Buchenwald, one of the most notorious Nazi concentration camps. Let me just take a sip. Mouth is getting a little dry. Let's see, on August 13th, 1944, Joe Moser set off on his 44th combat mission over occupied France. But on that hot August morning, he had to bail out of his damaged, burning plane. Captured immediately, Moser's journey into hell began. Joe Moser and his courageous comrades from England, Canada, and New Zealand and elsewhere endured, despite impossible odds and the most horrific surroundings, until the day the orders were issued by Hitler himself to execute them. Only a most desperate plan might save them. Lightning Down is a can't-put-down inspiring saga that reads like a thriller of brave men confronting great evil and great odds against survival. So it just looks like another great entry from Tom Clavin. So I'm very pleased to have the advanced copy. And again, it'll be coming out in early November. I will try to have this read before then so I can report back to you guys. But if you enjoy Tom Clavin's writing, I don't think you're going to go wrong with this one at all. So, there you go. All right. So we're going to go to, I have about 3 books from Other Press. They're great. They send me a lot of their stuff. But this one, I think I can safely categorize. Well, one is like biography and 2 are historical fiction of a sort. This is I Will Die in a Foreign Land by Kalani Pickart. This is coming out next month, October 19th. It says here, in 1913, Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring premiered at the new Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris. You know that I cannot pronounce French words, so I really apologize. The work so perplexed audiences that a riot broke out. Only a Russian could do that, says Alexander Ivanovich. Only a Russian could make the whole world go mad. What a great quote. A century later, sorry for that, I'm going to adjust this. A century later, starting in November 2013, thousands of Ukrainian citizens gathered at Independence Square in Kiev to protest then-President Yanukovych's failure to sign a referendum with the European Union, opting instead to forge a closer alliance with President Vladimir Putin and Russia. The peaceful protests eventually turned violent when military police shot live ammunition into the crowd, killing over 100 civilians. I Will Die in a Foreign Land follows 4 individuals over the course of a volatile Ukrainian winter as their lives are forever changed by the Euromaidan. Ooh, it's interesting. Euromaidan protests. It's Maidan, Euromaidan protests. Katya is a Ukrainian-American doctor stationed at a makeshift medical clinic in St. Michael's Monastery. Misha is an engineer originally from Pripyat, who has lived in Kiev since his wife's death from radiation sickness. Slava is a fiery young activist whose past hardships steel her determination in the face of persecution. And Alexander Ivanovich, a former KGB agent, joins the daily protests at Independence Square, clad in a balaclava where he plays the piano. As Katya, Misha, Slava, and Alexander's lives become intertwined, they each seek their own solace during an especially tumultuous and violent period. The story is also told by a chorus of voices that incorporates folklore and narrates a turbulent Slavic history. That sounds fascinating. I Will Die in a Foreign Land. And you know me, I kind of love... They even gave me a nice little book, $2. And it's, sorry, the publisher... I'm sorry, this isn't Other Press. This is $2 Radio. Books Too Loud to Ignore. This is a little independent publisher. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, $2 Radio. Check them out. So this is coming out next month. But again, I love Russian fiction or books set in Russia or Ukraine. It's things like that I really enjoy because I love Russian history, as you know. All right. Okay, so the next two books are from other press. This is a book of historical fiction. This is The House of Special Purpose, a novel by John Boyne. And this is, I think this is already out. This is the final copy. Okay, so this is out right now, but it came out this year. Yeah, it just came out last month, August 17th. Okay. And you can tell, I can tell, can you tell who that is by this mustache and this outfit? You know, it's my boy. That's Tsar Nicholas II. Anyway, you know, I'm fascinated by the Romanovs and especially the last Tsar. So I was down with this. So here we go. Part love story, part historical epic, part tragedy. The House of Special Purpose illuminates an empire at the end of its reign. 80-year-old Gregory Jacqueminov is haunted by his past, a past of death, suffering, and scandal that will stay with him until the end of his days. Living in England with his beloved wife Zoya, Georgie prepares to make one final journey back to Russia, to the Russia he once knew and loved, the Russia that both destroyed and defined him. As Georgie remembers days gone by, we are transported to St. Petersburg, to the Winter Palace of the Tsar in the early 20th century, a time of change, threat, and bloody revolution. As Georgie overturns the most painful stone of all, we uncover the story of the House of Special Purpose. If any of you know, and we should know by the title who that is, because that is where they were murdered. That's where the royal family, the Romanovs, were kept. So this sounds right up my alley. I know I have a friend out there, Kara. I know you're going to be down with this, right? Right? The House of Special Purpose. So this just came out last month. You can probably get it at your library. Request it or order it from other press. Thank you. All right, 32 minutes. We're going to get a couple more books here. All right, so this is biography. And, I've got a few books by this woman, and I have not, I started reading ages ago, and I have not finished it. I think The Rage and the Pride or something like that. But this is a biography, and this is a reprint. This has been out for a while. I think I have this in hardcover that I bought used, but this is Orianna. Sorry. This is about Orianna Fallaci, the journalist, the agitator, the legend, and is written by Cristina Di Stefano. So I think I do have this in hardcover somewhere. But I wanted to see if this offered any type of new afterword or any type of updating. The Rage and the Pride. Yeah, that's what she wrote. That was very controversial. All right, so this is out now. This is the finished copy, but yeah, this is the first softcover edition. Came out this year. I think it probably came out in the last month and a half or so. This is a landmark biography of the most famous Italian journalist of the 20th century, an inspiring and often controversial woman who defied the codes of reportage. Orianna Fallaci is known for her uncompromising vision. To retrace Fallaci's life is to retrace the course of history from World War II to 9/11. As a child, Fallaci enlisted in the Italian resistance alongside her father, and her hatred of fascism and authoritarian regimes remained strong throughout her life. Covering the entertainment industry early in her career, she created an original, abrasive interview style, focusing on her subjects' emotions, contradictions, and facial expressions more than their words. When she grew bored with movie stars and directors, she turned her attention to the international political figures of the time: Khomeini, Gaddafi, Indira Gandhi, Kissinger, always placing herself front and center in the story. Also a war reporter working wherever there was conflict, she would provoke controversies that became news themselves. With unprecedented access to personal records, Cristina Di Stefano brings to life this remarkable woman whose groundbreaking work and torrid love affairs are not easily forgotten. Orianna Fallaci allows a new generation to discover her story and witness the passionate, unstinting journalism so urgently needed in these times of upheaval and uncertainty. Sorry. I'm having a hard time speaking today. I'm trying to stay hydrated. So we have Orianna Fallaci. new reprint or softcover edition of the biography written by Christina De Stefano. So I'm intrigued. And I'm looking forward to that. And it reminds me to pull out my, I have a novel by Orianna Fallaci. Where is it? I can't find it. I thought it was down there. But anyway, thank you, Other Press. I can't wait to get into that. All right, so I have one more book for right now. This is put out by Del Rey. And this is going to be my Halloween read. Okay, we're going to have a scary story up in here. And you know I am a person, I enjoy my history, but I appreciate good scary stuff, good horror movies and things like that. This is a brand new release, and it's been getting a lot of buzz, and I've been seeing people talk about it on BookTube, and I really want to check it out. So this is The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. Look at that cover. Whew. Spooky. Nice big book. Get lost in. You know. All right. Let's do this. Are we ready? Are we ready to be frightened? Let's do it. Long ago, Nathan lived in a house in the country with his abusive father and has never told his family what happened there. Long ago, Maddie was a little girl making dolls in her bedroom when she saw something she shouldn't have, and is trying to remember that lost trauma by making haunting sculptures. Long ago, something sinister, something hungry, walked in the tunnels, in the mountains, and the coal mines of rural Pennsylvania. Now, Nate and Maddie Graves are married, and they have moved back to their hometown with their son Oliver. And now what happened long ago is happening again, and it is happening to Oliver. He meets a strange boy who becomes his best friend, a boy with secrets of his own and a taste for dark magic. This dark magic puts them at the heart of a battle of good versus evil, and a fight for the soul of the family, and perhaps for all of the world. But the Graves family has a secret weapon in this battle: their love for one another. Boom. Should be a good book. I mean, you should look at some. Well, I'll tell you, some of the people who have blurbed this book already. Let's see. Alma Katsu. I've read her book, The Deep. She also wrote The Hunger, which was about the Donner Party, and I have that one as well. Stephen Graham Jones. He's written that recent book, The Only Good Indians, which I want to read. I've heard some good things about that book, but he says here the dread, the scope, the pacing, the turns. I haven't felt all this so intensely since The Shining. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. I hope it's as good as this. So, yeah. Tons of blurbs on the back. Book of Accidents. Del Rey Books. Thank you. I'm looking forward to that, and I will report back by Halloween if you're interested. This is the History Shelf, but you know what? Like I said, it's a little grab bag sometimes. So anyway, guys, that's my 38-minute video of some of the new books I've received, and let me know what you find interesting below. Tell me what you'd like to hear back on, and I will do my best to incorporate that in future videos. So until next time, BookTube, I hope you're having a great Tuesday, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.